As we can all imagine, it's been a tense 48 hours, and INEC Chairman Mahmoud Yakubu has been on his toes and neck deep in meetings seeking the assurance that the CBN will make money available, as well as oil marketers ensuring that there is enough supply of petrol to move about on election day. And despite all these odds, INEC is dead certain that the general election will hold. Professor Mahmoud Yakubu addressed the State House correspondents after he briefed the Federal Executive Council on the level of preparedness for the conduct of this election. He identified scarcity of petrol and naira as major challenges, but with the hope that solution is in sight.
We took members of council through all the preparations that we have put in place for the election and the few challenges that we are facing and the steps that we have taken to address those challenges. The first one is availability of petroleum products. We had a meeting with the National Union of Road Transport Workers, and they raised that as an issue of concern. Immediately after that meeting, we interfaced with the leadership of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. The second one is the currency issue. And again, we had an engagement yesterday with the governor of the central bank, and he assured us that the commission will not suffer any encumbrances on that score. Fortunately for us, all our accounts, national and state, are held by the Apex Bank.
By the way, 2 days ago, the chairman of INEC met with the governor of Central Bank, Godwin Emefiele, where he promised to roll out cash for INEC to handle logistics for this election. Well, it's been 4 months now. Nigerians bought fuel at controlled price. There's also uncertainty on the circulation of naira after the February 10th deadline by the CBN. With these scenarios, can INEC truly have a hitch-free exercise? Well, that's the big question we're asking on the show tonight. I'm joined by lawyer and public relations expert Jide Ologun on the countdown. Mr. Ologun, thank you for joining us on the program. I'm hoping you can hear me, Mr. Ologun. We have a rich history of postponed elections in this country. You can trace it as far back as 2011, when elections were postponed right after the voting has started in some parts of the country. In 2015, 6 weeks to the election, some 6 days to the election, that exercise was postponed by 6 weeks. In 2019, it was the same thing. When elections were due in some 10 hours, INEC coming out to say that it has to postpone it as a result of logistical challenge. With the current assurances we're getting from the CBN and the NNPC, can we comfortably say that the Electoral Commission is prepared and ready this time?
Yes, we can confidently say that. If you look at the vision of INEC, it is to be a preeminent leader in electoral democracy. And I know that the budget that the INEC chairman presented to the National Assembly was about 305 billion naira, apart from the 40 billion naira annual budget. I mean, so you have about 355 billion naira for the 2023 elections. And as at March 2022, he said that as for fund, the commissioner has received significant amount for the conduct of the 2023 elections that will enable, the INEC to do a substantial part of what is needed for the election. And if I understand grammar very well, it means that they have been well funded for these elections. And perhaps what may be our challenge here is the recent shocks that we had in our country, talking about the rebranding of our naira notes, which led to the scarcity of petroleum. And he has said, and in line with what I presented recently, that INEC is a creation of the Constitution, CBN is a creation of the Constitution. They are all under the presidency, the executive arm of government. And so they can collaborate to ensure that we have elections. When you talk about the CBN governor, they all know each other, because these elections must hold. And if you look at the mission of INEC as an independent constitutional body, it is to manage free and fair elections of legislative bodies, institutions through the participation of citizens, political parties, civil societies, and to ensure that we deepen our electoral democracy. And if INEC
Mr. Ologun, you seem quite optimistic as to this election holding as at when due, particularly with the assurances we are getting from the Electoral Commission. But some 4 years ago in 2019, INEC had also repeatedly assured Nigerians and international observers that the election was going to hold until it came up hours before that exercise, citing logistical challenge. If, for instance, this deadlock on Naira swap persists, what do you think will happen?
Postponement is not cancellation. The elections of 2019 was postponed, but it held. And another season has come for elections. And good enough, some of the issues that may mar the elections or prevent it, some stakeholders have been proactive in bringing them to the fore. When this Naira redesigning was coming on board, some of us stated that it may be a very sound policy, but you need to look at implementation. And here we have the consequences now to test that decision to implement. And some actually came out to say that that implementation would have been a vindictive one. You see, so you need to test the ecosystem of your policy implementation before you proceed. In project management, when a project fails, it does not fail midway. It fails ab initio, from conception. And why should a nation that has huge, abundant, resources, oil and gas, suffer fuel scarcity? These are questions we are asking. It's all about governance. And the essence of democracy is to ensure that we have good governance in the land. And when you look at the values of INEC, it talks about impartiality, integrity, accountability, transparency, participation, responsiveness, and respect. And for INEC to earn that respect, it means INEC must, consistently monitor stakeholders. We expect that as a government system, the major stakeholders in the country should network when you are coming up with a policy. I mean, what one would have expected that the Federal Executive Council would have given it a thought that we have elections early in 2023. If we change the Naira, what happens? Except the picture is that the president just wakes up to take decision, because somewhere along the line, the Minister of Finance came out to say she was not in the picture of some of these policies being implemented. So we expect that INEC should be experienced enough, given the days of creation of INEC, in this present dispensation, because when you talk about an electoral body, it dates back to probably before we even gained independence in 1960, and it has been metamorphosing. So with all the experiences that INEC has gathered, we should be able to be assured if some stakeholders are not hell-bent on preventing election. But let me say this clearly, and that is in line with my expectations. The elections of 2023 we hold. If it is postponed, the postponed date will come, like it did in 2019. So I'm just advising that, if you have your PVC, get ready. And in crisis management, you may want to bring that concept in. You may just put it at the back of your mind that, okay, we may have a postponement, but please, after the postponement, the elections will hold. But I'm saying this evening that the INEC chairman in March 2022, and you can go and check that report, assured stakeholders. And in that meeting, we even had international stakeholders, that the Commission has received significant amount for the conduct of the 2023 elections that will will do a substantial part of what is needed for the election.
Indeed.
And if you are talking about insecurity, the executive is in control of the military, the police, so we don't have any excuse really. And then we look forward to having these elections. And when you talk about electoral offenses, the government has been empowered by the laws promulgated by the National Assembly to punish erring stakeholders, except we are saying that some stakeholders are above the laws in the land, which should be contrary to the spirit of the rule of law. So the government, as far as I am concerned, has the capacity to facilitate and deliver a free, fair, and credible elections.
Absolutely.
And of course, that is in line with what the president himself promised. So we are looking forward to delivering on that promise.
Plus the fact that this is the 7th successive election we're having since 1999, and Nigeria is expected to show some experience as to the conduct of election. But you did say that the 2023 election will hold whether it's postponed or not. Talk to us about the implication of a postponement on the credibility of the commission and the exercise itself, particularly when you consider the fact that the last 3 elections were postponed as well.
If the elections are postponed, there must be reasons for the postponement. And the big question is that why have we not been able to organize ourselves to ensure that these hindrances are clear, given the time we return to democracy? There was election in Germany. Was there an earthquake because there was an election in Germany? There was an election in the UK. So we need to upscale. Why is it that when elections are coming, you begin to have uncertainties and things like that? And for the benefit of putting good governance on the table, whether for political reasons or not, Nigeria has no business going through fuel scarcity or electricity scarcity or currency scarcity. But currently, the IMF and World Bank has warned us about this trade and payment disruption that we are suffering, particularly when you realize that about 133 million Nigerians have been reported to have slipped into the window of multifaceted poverty. So we need to rise up to our gains. And, some of us started expressing concerns when facilities of INEC were being attacked across the country. And we're asking, is it that we don't have sufficient provision for securing these facilities? And no one gets rewarded for making excuses. We are rewarded for performance. And we expect that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, who has promised to deliver a credible, fair, and fair election, we do that. And it's not just the citizens that are waiting to see that delivered. The international communities are also doing that. So
absolutely,
you don't need the unnecessary extra cost of postponement. And if there is a postponement, like I said earlier, at least you cannot postpone indefinitely. So we are waiting. And the lesson to learn here is that, the last time we held a general election was 4 years ago. 4 years should have been enough to consolidate if there is sincerity of purpose.
That's our time, Mr. Ologun. We probably will hope and count that all of these issues will be resolved. The naira scarcity, for instance, has emerged to be perhaps the biggest threat to this particular election. Jide Ologun, lawyer and PR expert, thank you for sharing your thoughts on the program.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.